Welcome, everybody. Mike, why don't you kick things off?
I will. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to our Planned Giving 101 webinar hosted by the Dallas Jewish Community Foundation in partnership with the Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association. I'm Michael Radoff, a Dallas Jewish Community Foundation donor-advised fund holder, as well as the president of the Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association. I know personally about the benefits of working with the foundation on creating a plan and mechanism for my own charitable giving. During my tenure on the board of the Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association, I've learned about how the foundation works together with nonprofits in our community. From providing a platform for individuals like me to learn about and support agency needs, to managing organizations' invested assets, to partnering on educational programs like we're doing today. The fact is, all of our Jewish community organizations do very well when we work together. A webinar about planned giving is not only important as we think about our own legacies, but is especially consistent with the work of the Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association. The DHFLA, as we call ourselves, is unique among organizations in that contributed dollars live on in perpetuity. As our no-interest loans made possible through gifts are repaid, the funds are lent out again and again, continuing to make a difference in so many people's lives. Since funds are recycled, donations have a lasting impact, which is what we all hope to do in some way with our work in the community and charitable giving. Now, I'll turn it over to one of our partners in the foundation, Mona Allen, to discuss how you can create a meaningful legacy. Mona.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Really very excited to be here and to help Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association and many of you think about planned giving. So we're going to just go over a few things, but first, let me give you a little bit of background about the Dallas Jewish Community Foundation. I like to say our mission is to grow philanthropy, but there is a more formal term there. We're actually the trusted partner to the donor. And when I say donor, I can mean individuals, families, or businesses. We also want to be available to more than just that group, and we'll get into it. But so just to show you, first I want to give you one little caveat. We at the foundation never give any type of legal or financial advice. However, we do work with the people that do offer that advice, the financial planners, lawyers, and all that. And we want to make sure that what we're doing is appropriate within the charitable giving portion of estate planning and planned giving. So let me just show you a little bit about what we offer. We have three major types of funds. Today, we're not going to talk about scholarships. That's on our website. But we are going to talk about DAFs, which stands for Donor Advised Funds. And you heard that Mike is a fund holder, and endowments. Now, the real important thing to know is the way that we work. We work alongside advisors. And real important to know, the work that we do, because we're a nonprofit, is without any type of fees. So just like Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association offers no interest loans without fees, we have a mission as well of offering our planned giving, all of our conversations, all of the documents without fees. And because all of our work is done confidentially, we can be as anonymous as the donor wants to be. So with that in mind, I also want to tell you a little bit about the work that we do with nonprofits. We are happy and honored to serve so many different nonprofit agencies in our community and on a national level. 59 at this point, unique different agencies. And the benefits to them is so much more than just being their fiscal manager, but we are working with them to offer some short-term financing solutions, and also help them with development and skill sets that they might not have. A lot of different opportunities there, and especially like today, to teach about charitable giving. So I just want to explain our reasoning. We began in 1973 exactly for the reason of helping a few Jewish nonprofits in the area to be their fiscal manager. We quickly then shifted to also include fund holders, people that want to be charitable for these said agencies. So now we have grown to the point that we have just under 900 funds, and we have over $330 million under management. But our why does set us apart, because when we work with a donor, we're not telling them how to do it, or this is the reasoning to do it from a tax reason or something. We want the why to be, why is the donor doing it? And more about that shortly. So now let's get into the actual crux of our time today, plan giving. Plan giving is a really thought of as an umbrella term. And it's basically the how to give monies to charities or other assets. It doesn't always have to be money, and that will be also something that will be discussed. The important things about it is it can be done during your lifetime or after you're gone. Now, the term estate planning is much more into the legal spectrum of things, and this is where you do involve your advisors, and it's where you want the assets to go and what you want it to do exactly. So this can be both to family and to the nonprofits that you care so deeply about. And again, this is where the Dallas Jewish Community Foundation is able to do all the planning and fund documents at no cost. So while you are doing estate planning, and many of you know it does come with a price tag to work with some of these advisors, the charitable gift planning is done by us. So legacy planning is really what we want to talk about today, because the legacy planning is how you're going to be remembered. And it's such a meaningful conversation that you're going to have not only with us, but hopefully with your heirs, hopefully with the agencies that you care so deeply about, and really be able to crystallize in your own minds, what is it that you want to do and how do you want to be remembered? Because of our 50 years of experience, we know how to have these conversations. We know how to guide these conversations. So a lot of times people ask, well, when do I start? When do I start thinking about it? Well, in Judaism, it's easy, right? We have a very important value of taking care of our world and repairing it, tikkun olam, making it better. So of course, the moment is now. The moment is yesterday and the moment is tomorrow. It's whenever you're ready. That's when you should start. So the good news is we're here for you whenever you want to be with us to talk. I've been here for 10 years. Many on our staff have been here for longer, and we have a few that are fairly new. But the reality is, knowing that we've been around for 50 years should give you a sense of confidence, knowing that we have the experience and we can have all different types of conversations. And so with that, a lot of people ask, I'm sorry, my slides aren't working. What about my children? How do I involve them in the conversation? Well, of course, another Jewish tradition is to teach your children, to educate them, to set examples for them. So anything that matters to you, you want your family to have that same sense of value that you give. There are plenty of opportunities there for us to be able to have conversations together, or for us to give the donor ideas if they want to have the conversation with just their family. We are used to having multi-generational conversations. Again, it's what the donor wants, and we're happy to work with them at their level. And it's really important that I should mention something, because as I said before, we oversee have 59 different nonprofit partner agencies. We have to stand out and be different to those agencies. So there's two things that we don't do. We don't fundraise and we don't solicit. So if you call us once and get some information and you don't call us again, we're not going to call you. If you call an agency and want to give them information, they're going to definitely want to call you. They want to keep in touch with you. That is their purpose, because they also need to survive on the donations. And that's why they want to keep you engaged. But we are different. And that's where we want to be able to remind you that when and if and however frequent you want to have a conversation, we're here for that. All right, so the next slide. Sorry, folks. How do I leave a legacy? So leaving a legacy is the beginning of a very wondrous journey, right? It's an endearing, you're going to have some endearing, heartfelt conversations between your family, between maybe people that matter to you most that are involved in leadership of the agency, and of course the agency itself. There are so many different ways to do this. And again, we want to guide you through all those processes. But let me just tell you about a story of someone that started a fund well over 50 years ago. And he started it with a bank. If we were around, he probably would have started with it probably would have started the fund with us, and you'll soon realize why. The man was Sylvan T. Bear of blessed memory. If you have heard of his name, then you are probably one of many Jewish agencies around in Dallas. But if you haven't heard of him, you will definitely realize the value. Mr. Bear left a large sum of money in memory of his parents. Now, back in the late 60s, $750,000 was an enormous amount of money. That monies that were set aside for an endowment fund for Jewish agencies, specifically to help the Jewish members with scholarship or fee reduction. So over 50 years, this fund has been able to generate thousands of dollars, more than $8.5 million to the Dallas Jewish community. It still has over $4 million in it. And every year, the Dallas Jewish Community Foundation works in conjunction with the bank that houses it and helps distribute it to the agencies that are most deserving for that particular year. It's a wonderful legacy. And there are ways for any of us to be able to participate, even though we don't have to be at that level. So let's just take an example. If you had $50,000 and wanted to invest it right now, like Mr. Bear's endowment, in 50 years, it will have granted out over $500,000. And the benefit is there will still be close to $300,000 in that fund. So just with $50,000. Now, some of you say, just $50,000. Yes, that is a lot of money. But look at what it's doing over time. That's where you have to see the beauty of what it is that an endowment is. So we'll discuss that a little bit more in detail. But if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate. Look at the Q&A tab that's at the bottom of your screen and make sure to check anonymous, because we want to keep this, if you want, you can keep your questions anonymous, and we will be happy to answer the questions during the course of our time together. So let's talk a little bit more about endowments. Endowments are a fund set up by a donor for a specific cause or for a specific group of agencies or for one agency in particular. Again, the donor decides what they want to do. An endowment, however, only allows a certain percentage each year to be spent in that grant to the agency or agencies. That way, the corpus of the endowment can continue to grow year over year, so that the next year and the subsequent years, that 5% will keep getting bigger. So let's talk about Judy. Every organization should have Judy, right? A wonderful lady that cares passionately about her agencies, but is also a modest woman and can only do donations every year between $150 and $180. And that's what she did until she passed away. Thankfully, because she set up an endowment fund with us, her endowment fund every year, like clockwork, spins off grants to the agencies that she cared most about in her lifetime. Instead of the 150 or 180, however, when it first gave out, it gave out more than $15,000. So can you imagine how a donor that was giving an agency $180 a year, all of a sudden, because of her good planning, is now giving more than $15,000. Now, Judy decided to do this so that she would be gone and she wouldn't be able to appreciate and see the excitement that we saw when we explained to the agencies, yes, this came from Judy. However, this came from Judy's fund. So that's why it has some more zeros to it and is a larger amount. We're really glad to be able to excite agencies when things like endowments come into happening. And I know that Jane had some experiences. I don't know if now's the time that you want to share.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jane Larkin, the Executive Director of Dallas Hebrew Free Loan, just to introduce myself. And in fact, yes, we actually are the beneficiaries of several endowments that are actually housed here at the Dallas Jewish Community Foundation. And I will say, for those of you who are considering this path, as you think about the various agencies that you support, one of the greatest benefits to the agencies of endowments is that they do become a little bit like clockwork, very perfect graphic, Mona, with the clock there, because they disperse funds to agencies at generally the same time every year. And because they do stipulate a set amount that they spin off each year, agencies have a general sense, depending on what the market, within a range, because they're based on how they're doing from an investment perspective, as to what to expect. And, being able to plan for, a general sense of a gift coming in at a certain time is incredibly helpful as we look to manage our expenses, and we know when our, heavy periods are for us, for example, for our loan distribution. And so it makes our planning just a little bit easier at certain times, knowing that we have them. And obviously, for these donors who've set up these endowments, these are people who are often just like Judy, who have given to us in smaller amounts consistently over the years, and who we've had an opportunity to thank many times in the past, but who, we can continue to appreciate, their gifts and their support ongoing.
Well said, Jane. Thank you. And to Jane's point about not knowing what exactly is going to be that grant amount for a particular year based on the market, it's very important. And thankfully, we have our investments are not meant to do well immediately. They're meant to do well over time. we're in it for the long haul. We want these endowments to be happening in perpetuity. However, we realize that there are some agencies that are going to go out of business because hopefully there will be a cure, or there will be a way to solve the problem, whatever the mission behind those nonprofits are. But the reality is the majority of the agencies are needing to be around longer than we are. And that's why our investment models are such that there is growth over time. And we have shown statistically that over time, that 4% or that 5% that is annually coming out from an endowment fund, that number is getting bigger because the corpus that stays in the fund is also getting bigger over time. So thank you for that. And with that, we do have a question from the audience. Please don't hesitate if you have a question. This one asks, what happens if I leave a gift to an organization in my will, but then I change my mind? So first off, let's go and talk about what is the term if I leave a gift to an organization in my will. That's called a bequest. And Jane, that'll be something I know that we can touch upon. A bequest is a wonderful opportunity for people that don't have made plans with us, but have put something in their will. The negative to that, in our opinion, they're not seeing the joy of what their generosity can do in their lifetime. It's going to be happening long after they're gone. And possibly if you're like many people, a will is very private and people don't share what's in the will, not even with their heirs. And these are conversations to have with your family to really excite them because of the generosity and because of the importance that you put the agency in your own ideas of what your priorities are. So again,
Mona, is it okay to jump in for a second?
Sure.
So I will also say, and I can share an example of a bequest, but one, just from my experience in nonprofit, one thing about a bequest is they are revocable. And that means that, that means you can change your mind. If you do leave a bequest while it's done in your will, many agencies, including Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Associations, do have something called a bequest or legacy intent form, which you can fill out. You don't have to put in any more information than, I have designated to leave something for X agency in my will. And agencies know, all nonprofits know that those bequests can be changed. And so it's incredibly helpful for us to know, even though it's not something we can obviously guarantee and count on from receiving the gift, but it gives us a sense of what might be benefiting us in the future. But also, more importantly, it gives us the opportunity to thank you and show our appreciation for you during your lifetime, rather than after. We did have a situation where we received a bequest several years ago, and we had no idea that we were we were receiving this gift. And we work very hard with all of our donors if they want to direct the funds to something specific that we do, whether it's a specific loan type or a specific program that we have, that we can designate those funds. And, as Mona mentioned, it was, not something that was known to the people in the family who were executing the will. And so, we gave them the option to designate it, and back and forth and talking, we kind of surmised what the person who, gave this, generous gift to us would want to support within our loan programs. But of course, because we didn't know ahead of time, we couldn't have that conversation with that individual. So we did our best, and we, really went out of our way to make sure that those executing her will understood how appreciative we were, and we tried to honor this individual the best we could. But it's easier to honor you when you can also receive that appreciation.
Well said. Well said. And all right, so let me answer the question, and then I'll also mention something about that. So what happens if I leave a gift to an organization in my will, but then I change my mind? Well, Jane already answered that the legacy gifts are revocable, that you can change your mind. So you can decide whether you want to change the amount or remove it entirely. You can do that. But let me just also remind you, anytime you need to change your will, you have to speak to your attorney. And there is going to be fees involved. If you set up an endowment document, an endowment fund document with us, you can change it numerous times, and there's going to be no charge. So I just want to throw that out there to you. Once an endowment, though, has made its first award, then it cannot be changed. Then it really becomes law, and we do follow the document. But we do want to let you show that there is wiggle room. We know, we understand things change. And that's why if you do want to have conversations now, as Jane said, with your family or with the agency, then the agency and the family can both know exactly what it is, what is the intent. That's what we base all of our documents on. What is the intent of the donor? And that's why none of our documents are alike, because everyone has a different desire. So keep those questions coming, and I appreciate that. So I do want to also tell you that, hey, not everybody wants to do an endowment or has the capacity to do an endowment, and that's fine. Let's talk about another tool that's available here at the foundation for you to be able to be charitable in your lifetime. And that's donor advised funds, which is really very similar to a charitable checkbook, as it says. It's very simple. Anytime you make a contribution to the donor advised fund, you get that tax letter, that notification of your gift. That comes the calendar year, the time that you make that donation. But then you get to decide when you want to send it out to the agencies. It can sit and grow because it is pooled invested with all of our assets. So it will grow. You can decide to involve your children when they are older, or your grandchildren, or you could use it even as seed seed funding for an endowment, should you want to do that. You don't have to even make any of those decisions right now. You just open it, and with as little as $5,000. And what it is, what I mean by charity checkbook, we become your administrative team, and you say, hey, I have 5 grants and I want it to go to 5 agencies and I want it to go out next week. And you give us that information. We take some time. If we've never heard of the agency, we want to make sure that they are a vetted nonprofit. And we liquidate the monies from your account to be able to make these transactions. And we send it out. We send out the grant on your behalf. And you don't have to do any stamps. You don't have to wait for any tax receipt letters, because all of that is done through us. So that's a benefit that you should know about. And it's a very popular one at that. Now, there is, of course, the big one that we talked about, endowments. Again, endowments are donations that nonprofits can rely on. And of course, donor advised funds get you to start thinking about endowments. But you don't have to do one, or you don't have to do both. You can do whichever ones you want. That's up to you. Just want to show you again the services that we offer. So why do this? Why be interested? Why volunteer? Why are you on this call? the reality is you care, right? Your actions speak volumes, and what you're doing today and what you have done and what you will do, that all is helping you fill a need, a tremendous need. Our agencies need support. Why do you think the government is so kind in allowing us to be able to, allowing you, the fund holder, to have so many different tax implications to being generous to agencies? Because these are nonprofit agencies. These are not agencies that the government can help. It's agencies that we, the community, can help. So an endowment will give you an ongoing stream of income. Any agency wants that, right? They don't want to have to be in the business of fundraising. They want to be in the business of being able to acknowledge all their generous donors and all the good things that have happened from their generosity. So remember, even though we're having this conversation now, it will go on into generations, long after we're gone, and long after many more agencies come onto the landscape. But we have to be able to say, we want to make a difference. And the question, how do we all want to be remembered? So with that, I have closed my portion, and I still want to hear from some other people. And I know that I'm going to introduce Jane, who you've already heard from, but I really want to remind you all that philanthropy is a powerful way to improve our community. And there's so many different ways to be generous. You don't have to do it through us. If you want to have conversations with us, wonderful. If you wanted to keep doing it the way you've been doing it, that's wonderful too. We just want to be able to remind you all how important it is to help our nonprofits. So with that, I do want to thank Jane, first and foremost, for even coming together and having the Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association take us up on our on the offer of offering this webinar. We want to be able to make this accessibility to all of our agencies, and we're so glad that we were able to be with so many of your fund holder, your generous donors, and appreciate it. I see a few more questions in here, but I do want to allow Jane to speak, our longtime executive director of the Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association of Dallas.
Oh, well, thank you. I just also want to thank, the foundation for being a great partner. I do know that in addition to individuals who are connected with the Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association, that there are a number of agencies who joined us today. And if you are not already working with the foundation, even just on educational programming like this, I highly recommend you do. They are a wealth of knowledge, and they are fantastic to work with. And they really are here to support all of us. And I will echo what Mike and Mona said is, when we are so much stronger as a Jewish community when we are all working well together from an agency standpoint and referring different, whether it's clients to each other or sharing ideas on how all of us can grow. So I'd like to say that. Other than that, I think I can wait to finish my remarks until we wrap up towards the end, so we can make sure we get into people's questions before they have to drop off.
Okay, great. Well, one of the things that we intentionally did was leave time for questions. So thank you. I do have a few in the queue right now. So what are some ways you suggest, what are the first steps in increasing an organization's endowment? So I'll take a first stab at that. And Jane, if you have any thoughts about that. I think the biggest thing is education. I think we are dealing in society with a little red schoolhouse. There are people that know lots of information, and there are people that don't have the first clue of what an endowment is, or what the value is of an endowment as opposed to an outright gift. And I'll give you just a brief example. I was told by a longtime advisor that works with us, gave us a story of an agency, a very small agency, received a gift, I think of a little over $1 million, which was like a multiplier of how much their annual budget was. That's how small the endowment was. They didn't know what to do with it. And then the board and the leader, and the staff, they all got excited. Well, let's just build an extension and let's just, make our footprint bigger. And they did. And it was great until nobody realized about overhead. Nobody realized about the extra time for maintenance and the extra utility bills. And none of them even thought about putting even a portion of that away in an endowment so that they could have a constant stream of revenue coming back. So education, and it also ties in with the next question. Jane, you mentioned that Dallas Hebrew Free Loans recognizes people who include them in their will. Do nonprofits usually expect people to tell them if they're in their wills?
I mean, I would say from my experience, both at Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association and the other nonprofits that I've worked for, is that we hope people will tell us that they've left us in their will so that we can thank them and can, have the conversation as to whether or not there is something specific that if we do wind up receiving the funds, they would like the funds directed to. But I have never seen that the ones I've worked for, it be an expectation or required. It's a hope.
It is a hope. And honestly, I think back a generation or so, it was never even a hope because nobody ever talked about it. Nobody talked about this out loud and all that. And we realized there's we're leaving ourselves open to a lot of problems. And let me share one bequest that did come in for an agency for a school. And the bequest wasn't just the sum of money. It was saying, hey, I want you to build X. Well, wouldn't you know it? The year before, the school had already built that very thing that the will said. So they went to the family and they went to the lawyer, and the school was like, hey, we just built this. And they said, well, that's what this money is for. We can't do anything about it. So can you imagine the amount of sadness and frustration for the family, for the agency, not being able to use this gift because the caveat that the generous donor had put on this gift was not in discussion, and nobody knew. And of course, there was a need for this, and that's why the school had raised funds to be able to build this addition. So those are the things. Yes, Jane?
And I was to say, and I can't speak for every agency. I can just speak to how I've always worked and how we think about legacy and bequests at Dallas Hebrew Free Loan. And so, other agencies may give you a different answer, but it's not something everybody, we understand that, obviously this is your money and your, how you want to be remembered. And so this is not something that we are receiving now and may never receive. Even if you don't change your mind, there may be things that happen during your lifetime that those funds need to go to whether it's medical or healthcare or something else. And so there may not be anything left to disperse. So that's one thing. And then we do know that, things change and people's passions may change, and they may change their will multiple times. And so while, I don't want people to think that they shouldn't tell because they're afraid that there might be an expectation or someone may be on the hook for something. It is generally, and I think people who do the right thing within the area of philanthropy understand that this is great for us to know. We appreciate it. We can appreciate you. We can plan for if something is received, but that, we're fully aware this is not guaranteed.
Right. And let me bring up a term, blended gifts. Blended giving is where you give partially in your lifetime and partially after you're gone. So that's really something that we strive for. We want the donor, and I'm sure the agency also wants it, to be able to see the excitement and the joy of how their generosity is being used and played out.
And I would say, like, one of the things, to Mona's point, one of the things that I try to do, because over 90% of gifts go directly towards supporting our mission of making no interest loans, that when someone gives a gift, and if they want it, we actually have an individual who established an endowment during their lifetime specifically for our student loan program. And, after we receive that disbursement each year, it coincides fairly well with our student loan season. And I am able to send a note to this individual and say, because of your gift, we made a loan today. We helped a Jewish kid from the North Texas area go to college. And that feels really good. And it feels really good for the people who have made the gift, because they know that it was put to use almost immediately.
And every year we'll still be able to do that. That's a lot to be said. That's why those subsequent gifts that an endowment can offer. So here's another question. Somebody asked that they want to leave something to charity, but don't know how to discuss it with their kids. Have we seen examples of how people can start having that conversation? So I'll start by telling you, in our environment, we like to say, lead by example. We all want your heirs, your family, all those that you support. We definitely want you to continue to support them after you're gone. But we also say, what is a percent or a certain amount of money? How is that going to detract from what you're able to give them? I'm sure everybody wants to give them the best possible, but giving them also a opportunity to hear that, hey, 1% or $100,000 or whatever the amount is also going to go to charity in our name or in my name or in memory of your grandparents. What are you giving them there? That's something that's much more valuable than the assets and what you're giving to them. And you can discuss with us, you can discuss with your advisors. There are actual advantages to giving something to charity, even a percentage that will help offset what you're also giving to your heirs. That I'm getting into technical stuff and I don't want to go there, but there are plenty of opportunities. Feel free to reach out to me if you do have any of those questions. We are always wanting to continue a conversation. Again, we're not going to solicit. You can call me tomorrow and say, hey, I was on the call, and I can give you the information and we can part ways. Or you can say, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. It's all up to you. We're not passing any judgment and we're not making any stipulation. The mission really is to have the conversation. You're allowing us to do one of our goals, which is to spread philanthropy, the understanding of philanthropy. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jane. And if we do have more questions, please keep on sending them in.
So thank you, Mona. I was just looking at the questions to see if there was anything else we wanted to address before I jumped into my closing remarks. But I just really want to thank Mona and her colleague, Risa Gross, for really working so closely with us, not only on today's webinar, but also working with us to provide educational materials regarding this type of giving that we can put on our website and use in our social media to provide to the community who engages with our communication channels. It's very helpful. And whether it's something that benefits us directly or whether it, also serves other agencies within the community, that's fine. It's just really important to be part of that conversation. If you are another Jewish agency, I hope this discussion gave you food for thought on how you can work with the foundation. And if you're an individual who already has your legacy plans, maybe today gave you another nugget or another idea for enhancing or tweaking what you've already, put together. And, if you're just starting to think about legacy planning, I hope you are going to be leaving with a few things to think about as you go about codifying your plans. As Mona said, that she and her colleagues are always available, whether you're a fund holder or not, to answer your questions. And additionally, if you have any questions about Dallas Hebrew Free Loan Association and our work, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. I will say we reached a milestone at the end of August, and we are incredibly proud to now have over $1.1 million in loans outstanding in the community that are providing, a financial lifeline to over 140 individuals and couples, families who live within the North Texas Jewish community. So monies that we receive really, they not only do they live on in perpetuity, but they are really put to work very quickly. Just we've seen over a 25% increase in demand given the inflation and things like that. So thank you so much for joining us. And, we look forward to engaging with you soon.
Thank you again, Jane, and to Mike and to your organization for all the good that you do. And for those that were on the call, thank you so much for being a part of today and for hopefully getting some ideas percolating on how you too can make a difference in our community. We look forward to more opportunities. Have a great day.